Over the Ditch is back for another week. Matt Markham, hello to you, mate.
G'day, mate. How are we?
Very, very well. I don't have a nana blanket on today. It's a much nicer day here in central Victoria. We were just commenting on the weather there. It's been a little bit of everything in New Zealand last week.
Yeah, it is. Bit of snow, bit of sunshine, but everything. Of course, the MEFA meeting last Friday was abandoned per se, but they've just shifted that program to tomorrow, obviously being Tuesday that we're filming this. So we'll still get 11 races on the grass track at my home track tomorrow, which will be good. I will be taking the day off work to go and perch up out there in the sun, hopefully, and watch some good racing.
How does that affect the club? I think it was going to be. What was it going to be a Friday meeting? I think it was, wasn't it? And now in midweek. How will that affect the grass track racing?
Look, I don't think it'll affect too much. Turnover-wise, we'll probably be a bit down because the meeting was sort of kicking in right around that prime time over here, which is 5 o'clock when everyone's walking into pubs and clubs and whatnot and having a bet. And on course, we may not get as many people here as what we may have on Friday, but the most important thing is that these horses have actually got somewhere to race because we haven't had a grass track meeting since MEF and Cup.
Yep.
I think. It's been a long time. So there's a lot of horses out there that are crying out for it because once we get through Cup Week, we really start to kick into that where it's weekly grass track meetings. So I think that's the most important thing that they're able to shift the meeting and we're still going ahead and the 160 odd horses that are racing tomorrow still get that run under their belt ahead of what's a busy 6 weeks or so.
And it is unusual this year. Again, it's been highlighted that basically there's an extra week, if you like, now from between Kaikoura and then to, I would say your grand final, your Melbourne Cup Carnival, if you like. There's that extra week in the middle from New Zealand Cup week through to show day. It's just a magic week of harness racing. But then that is then the precursor for all these other races. So like you said, a meeting like this is so important for the rest of the horses, which we try to highlight, and we want to continue to highlight these horses that may not be the Yakutas and that of the world, and we want to keep showcasing them. So it's a very, very important time, and it'll be good racing. Be able to tune in myself because it's a Bendigo Cup here, and it's a public holiday. So blokes who work for themselves just take public holidays off, Matty. That's how it works.
Yeah, I'm trying to build towards that point. I aspire to be like you, Paul.
It won't happen. I can promise you, it will not happen. Rightio, Kaikoura. We're going to start at the top. One, just fabulous coverage, I will say, from the TV crews. I'm critical of drone footage at the right and wrong time, and we were saying it last week. But at Kaikoura, the footage, the guys have a lot of trouble because there's too many caravans. What they were able to showcase from a horse racing point of view and be able to follow them, I think outstanding. Hats off to whoever was flying the drone and whoever come up with all the ideas. I think it was a brilliant coverage for people to be able to actually see all of the moves in the races.
Yeah, it's that adaptation thing, it's not going to work all the time and it probably doesn't need to work all the time. But as you say, Kaikoura, there's a lot of noise in the middle of the track. I say noise, it's usually tents and caravans and all sorts of things. And that camera that's panning straight across to the back straight's often impeded by what is in the middle of the track. So I'm a bit like you. I'm not a fan of it all the time, but I tell you, I really enjoyed that drone coverage on Monday, watching those horses come off the back straight and into that last bend. Because unless you've been standing at that bend, and it's quite a sight to see, it's so tight. How the horses react to that really sharp last bend is really interesting. And you can sort of, particularly with the trotters, you could see them getting off balance. You could see, and we'll talk about it in a minute, Oscar Bonavina, he was trying to go so quick, but that bend is so sharp that you lose all momentum and you lose all balance and you fly to pieces. So, yes, I enjoyed that. Cup week, do I want to see it at Eddington? No, I'm 50-50. I'd rather see it when they do the post-race analysis. But from a New Zealand point of view, what is really cool is we're now getting more post-race analysis and comment and conversations with trainers, drivers, owners than we've had since before first COVID lockdown. So that's really encouraging. And Entain have come on board and set up an individual channel for big race meetings. I understand that Cup Day will have wall-to-wall Addington coverage from Cup Day. So it's going to be fantastic for the people that can't be there at Addington because they'll be able to tune in. They'll get all that drone footage post-race. Years gone by, they've put the helmet cams on drivers and microphones for pre-race and things like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they produce, because if the last couple of Monday meetings have been anything, there's a lot to look forward to.
No, that is exciting to see. We might try and get someone on next week to see what that coverage might look like, actually, and try and get them on the phone and have a bit of a chat about what they are going to do. So we will get into that. Rightio, we'll start at the top with the Yellow Bar Kaikoura. I can't say the word. I just say Kaikoura, but listening to the race caller, he says it so much better than me. Cup. Firstly, it was a great race, and we can't be mistaken by that. There's a crowd. You can see the crowd there as I put the race footage on. Akuta was very, very dominant, but I don't think this necessarily lends itself, I'll be interested in your thoughts, lends itself to how the New Zealand Trotting Cup is going to be run and won for mine, because it was an interesting race once they settled into their posies. I'm going to I'll let the start go, but we'll probably catch up to that last lap, Matty.
Yeah, it's always a hard one to get a line on, but I think when I said it to you last week, you just want to see that natural progression from week to week from Akuta, and this is the best performance from Akuta this time in. I've got no doubt about it.
Very, very scratchy away, and I saw an interview with Mark Purdon where he said that you just got to watch him for those first 4 or 5 steps. I think it's a little bit further than that. Like I reckon still even here, Olivia's very happy to have a helmet in front and just that little bit of distraction before he really sort of settles into his gait.
Yeah, I'm not so concerned about the stand start with him come Cup week. Drawing down the inside at that start point at Kaikoura can be quite tricky for horses because there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of people, you can see a lot of things. Cup day, they're going to be over the back straight. There'll be minimal people over there. He can get a lot more relaxed. And I think if he draws middle of the front line, and Mark actually touched on that post-race, he's going to be a lot better.
Yep.
Or even out wider. And it's well known that the 2 mile start at Addington can favour the horses that are drawn closer to the outside because of the camber as you come off that back straight. So I'm sure they'll be hoping for somewhere around sort of 6 outward on the front line so that they can get away and get into a position. But again, he showed here that it's not really a major issue. He's quite happy. This was a big call from Olivia to get going here. And I've got to give her plaudits. She has handled this horse perfectly in the 2 drives she's had on it the last 2 Mondays. And, you know, this could have gone awry here because we know Carter Dalgety likes a lead. Olivia would have been just as happy sitting park, but she's got the horse into the race, and this was ultimately what won him the race. The moment that Carter was happy to hand up on Krug, and she got to the front and she could control it from there.
It's an interesting thing, and it was highlighted on a couple of races yesterday, and I've seen it a few times. In Australia, a move at the 1,000 metre mark is almost suicide, yet over there it seems to be the right time to get into the race, if you like, between that 1,200 and 1,000 metre mark. Whereas here, you'll get posted. If you came like that, it doesn't matter who it is, you're posted 3 deep, and you're there for the rest of the race.
And that's key at Kaikoura too, and you see it a lot in races. You've got to be up on the speed at the winning post with a lap to run, otherwise you're out there 3 wide the trip. You see Blair Orange going forward there on Self Assured. He gets shunted by Old Town Road. There were some reports from the All-Stars camp that they were a lot happier with Self Assured. And on face value, that run probably looks disappointing. But he's launched a massive sustained run down that back straight. And then, as I've talked about that bend, he's 4 or 5 wide coming around it. I'm just prepared to put a line through that run for Self Assured.
I just want to ask you your thoughts on Old Town Road, and instead of going back to the video, it's just this point here where Zach sort of pulls out but doesn't go anywhere. He's got plenty to offer, but he just stays there. And just interested in your thoughts on that, maybe, Matt, just at the end of it. Like, we'll let the video play out. But I think, as you said, Self Assured was good because I think the horse himself actually probably thought he was 3 deep. And then all of a sudden Blair's pulling him like he's 4 deep and potentially gets that little bit lost around that bend a bit.
I think what Zach was trying to do, and you can actually see it, how it hasn't played out, he's pushed Blair out and then thought, cool, Blair will get around me and I've actually got a helmet to cover around the last bend, to follow around the last bend, and then I can ping him for his speed. But what's effectively happened is he's worked 3 wide from the end of the back straight around that last bend, and it is incredibly hard to do that.
Yes.
That said, at this point right here, I thought he was the winner, Old Town Road.
Yep.
And then I looked inside and saw Olivia hadn't even moved a muscle. And I went, oh, okay, no, he's got, I think, 2 gears left there, Akuta. He has absolutely jogged that. And that's about as commanding Kaikoura cup performance as you'd want to see from New Zealand Cup favourite. Old Town Road, good. He'll improve off that. You've got to remember he's only second up for the season. Krug, he's continuing on a nice trajectory towards the second Tuesday in November. Kango was good. Mossdale Ben was good. So it's the same sort of horses that we're talking about from week to week leading into this cup. But at the moment, it's Akuta. And then, of course, we've got the Swayze factor after the way that he performed on the weekend. And I know reading some reports that they're coming over absolutely brimming with confidence. So it's going to make for a great wee side hustle to what is already a great race in the New Zealand Cup.
They're always very confident, that team, and I'm going to touch on something. We'll go back to the start of that race there in a minute. Your assessment of Self Assured, were you comfortable with his run? You thought it was okay, or are you still jury out?
Look, I backed him yesterday. I'll admit that. I was quite confident on him. And then as I watched them swing into line, I kind of kicked myself because I know how bad one at Kaikoura can be. And he sort of scrambled away and it cost him. You could see Blair sort of looking to try and get off at various points early in that race, but he didn't. Then he's had to angle back to come last. Yes, he's beaten 8.5 lengths. He's an older horse. I think he's starting to hit his peak fitness. And I said to a couple of people last night, when they open a top 5 market on the New Zealand Trotting Cup, which I imagine will be sometime next week, Self Assured's the horse I'm backing.
Yep.
Because I think what they'll do is they will drive him for one run. And he is exceptionally quick. We know that. We know he can fly off the end of a 2-mile run. He was desperately unlucky with a flat tyre last year. I'm not prepared to write him off. Can he win it? He would have to ping and lob a trail, I think, to win it. Or maybe 3 fence, but I definitely think he's still a player in this cup, particularly in a top 5 market.
Mossdale Ben, the hopes have just got him ticking over beautifully. He's been up for a long time. He continues to go good. I reckon what Arna Donnelly's done with Kango after a disastrous Australian campaign to get him back and prove that the week before was no fluke. I thought he was terrific again last year. Last year he was able to find the fence. This year he was out that little bit wide, and I think he has a bit of a hitch in his gait, so I think they would have to be wrapped. Cran and Chrissy Dalgety, they're the silent little sneaky ones this year a bit, aren't they? Because there was a little horse called Republican Party, and I would imagine like Blair's sitting back there and he's thinking, yeah, we would have figured in this finish as well the other day, just off the back of the form around Mossdale, Benz and Krug. It's not an Akuta Swayze New Zealand Cup by any stretch.
No, and you've mentioned the horse that probably holds the key to the whole race, and that's Kango.
Yeah.
Because he can step from a stand start. David Butcher is probably one of New Zealand's most aggressive drivers when he wants to be. If he found the front, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to lead all the way with him. And that means that there's not a lead there for Akuta, there's not a lead there for Swayze, and all of a sudden we get to the top of the straight at Addington with a lap and a bit left to run, and she's all on for young and old then. He holds a lot of keys to that race in a couple of weeks, Kango, because he's such a big free rolling horse and he doesn't mind doing a bit of work. We saw it in the Auckland Cup earlier this year. He was so good in that race. You're right, Arna's done a beautiful job to get him back to where we knew he should be when he went to Australia. And I think he holds a lot of cards to the race.
I explained to a lot of people, I said he's a beast, and unfortunately it just didn't work for whatever other reason, from not getting onto a truck to a couple of other issues there. For mine, I'm very keen on Old Town Road. I think Zach looked after him awesomely, and as I said, Republican Party missing those races. It'd be interesting if he's racing this week, which we'll touch on that in a sec. Just going to go back to the start, and there's a lot been said about Swayze, and this is one of the things I want to point out. I know there's a big crowd there. There'll be more hype on New Zealand Cup Day, but because we don't have stands over here in Australia for these fast class horses, it's this part here that I think could be the undoing of Swayze. There's talk that if he draws the front line, he'll just find the front. But he's got to be able to do this, mill around. You can see Arna's horse out the back there, Kango, rearing up and carrying on. But Zach understands how it works. All of these drivers understand that they're about to get let go. Johnny Dunn's trying to get a fly. Cam Hart's a great driver. That to me is the biggest worry for Swayze, is this. And then every horse going away too from a stand, a horse that hasn't done it, they panic. That's the biggest worry I see against that 11 horses that will potentially all go around in the New Zealand Cup, plus a couple of others that we'll highlight in a minute. That's going to be his biggest worry, and he might miss it 40 metres.
Yeah, that is always the case with the Australian horses when they do come over. Maybe not so much the Australian horses that were formerly Kiwi horses that grew up and learnt the trade with standing starts. But, I wouldn't have said that Swayze in that trial the other day when he qualified from a stand was quicker away than what Akuta was then. And that's a bad start from Akuta, Ideally for him, Swayze, that is, I actually think he's better drawing the second line and following them and having a horse to follow out than looking up, and particularly if you draw down the inside, because you actually end up standing for a lot longer than any other horse in the field. Those outside ones sort of come in late and slingshot a wee bit. So barrier draw is going to be very, very important for a horse like Swayze. And yeah, you can't afford to give them 40 in a New Zealand Trotting Cup, not when they go as quick as what they do these days.
No, absolutely. And as I said, there's horses just ticking along, getting their legs in, Old Town Roads, Republican parties, and Akuta even. He hasn't had that many starts either. But then you've got the season ones again. Kango, Mossdale, Ben, even horses like Smithy's Terror and those horses, they get away like a rocket. They've got their legs there. I think there's a lot of hype around him, Swayze. I think a little bit of that has to do with the stable. And he is a good horse, don't get me wrong, but it's a big step for him, I think, to go across there and do that. He was awesome on the weekend, but again, a mobile race, found the top and carved out solid sectionals. He may not be able to do that. If he does get to do that, well, it might be all over, but anyway, wait and see. The NZB Standardbred sales, and I can say their online catalogue is coming up very, very soon. I found that out last night, not through Cam Bray, through one of my loyal listeners on the Talking Trotter show, so people are starting to ask about it. This race was over, reasonably early, and again, another stand, and we'll let this standing start highlight here. It's an interesting one. 3 and 3 was a little bit... interesting to watch from my point of view. When I was watching it, I thought this is odd, but again, when you look at the fields, like you had 3 off the front, 3 off 10 and 2 off 20, and this, as I said, all these drivers know what's going on and they understand it and they all step beautifully. Ricky May, Jimmy James Maguire just handled him an absolute treat, almost lost him there a couple of times, but just knew that if he found the front, he was going to be very, very hard to beat, and that's exactly what he did.
He did actually, Ricky did very well inside that first 100 metres because he nearly lost him 3 or 4 times. And he has been prone to get it wrong at the start and stand starts before. But once he balanced up and found the front like this, it's quite how do I put it? We're used to Ricky May driving patient races and storming home from middle of the pack and getting the job done that way. He's actually won the race inside the first 3/4 of a lap because he's run that hard, which has meant that none of these back markers and the anything goes and the barks and the like can't get into the race as early as they'd like. And then by the time Ricky's starting to button it off, which is getting to about here, they're starting to move, but by the time they get up outside them, he's running again because he's had 400 metres worth of breather. You see Blair Orange is about to come out here with anything goes as they all start to roll off the fence. Heisenberg, I think, is the horse coming up 4 wide. But this was cool for me, Paul. We're used to seeing Ricky May win big races a lot. Never before have we seen Ricky May win a black type race as an owner, and he has a share in Jimmy James Maguire, along with his sister and her husband, the infamous Peter Rabbit Bacon, who is a prolific owner over here in New Zealand, along with Neville Lancaster and his wife and some other owners as well. So seeing Ricky in the winner's circle, I'm sure Rick will enjoy getting both the driving percentage and a bit of the owner's percentage in the mail in a couple of weeks. And he's a very, very nice horse. He is going to be an open class horse next season. I've got no doubt about that because he's got a high cruising speed. He follows speed really well, and he deserved this. Nearly a big moment for the horse in the trail. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. Leicester won the Oamaru Cup. They decided he's got a good horse's record. We better find out if he's a good horse and throw him in a $50,000 listed race. And he has run a bottler for a horse that was having, I think it's its 9th career start. He's taking on horses that have run second in Meffin Cups, and a horse like Anything Goes, who at one stage might have been 5th favourite for the New Zealand Trotting Cup. So big run, and these two have cleared right away Anything Goes, I thought, was pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
He's flat to the boards there. You can see him outside Jimmy James Maguire. And Bark's run was very good because that's him 4 fence. Johnny drove him for a bit of luck around that last bend, and it played into their hands, and he snuck into third. So all credit to the winner. Very good from the runner-up, and just another great instalment of this race that we see at Kaikoura every year, as you see this length of the straight battle between two nice horses.
How long is the straight at Kaikoura?
Is it just over 300 metres or just on 300 metres?
It's a lot longer than you think because that home turn. Anything Goes, they won't be going to the New Zealand Cup, I would imagine, with him after that.
No, he was withdrawn a while ago, I think.
Yep.
So he's not still in the rankings.
He's actually going. He's actually going okay, the horse, just not to the levels that everyone was expecting.
Yeah. He was a big ticket purchase earlier in the year out of the Steve Dolan stable, and he looked like he was going to be the young pretender of this year's Cup, but probably just hasn't quite gone on. But he's quite a big framed horse, and I think he's still got some filling out to do before we're going to see his potential. And well, he's in the right stable to make it happen within the next 12 months, and we might be having different discussions about him in 12 months' time. Bark is still nominated for the Cup. Whether that's enough to get him in.
Where's he at, Bark? Because, I mean, he got it wrong in that standing start event. It'd be over a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, possibly now, where he led and looked like he stepped around a pole. I think it was they didn't have spreaders on him, or they were going to put spreaders back on him. Down the back straight in that same race there, he put in a few wobbly ones and then Johnny decided, well, I'll go back to the fence. Like, where is that horse at for yours? Because he is quite a capable horse. He's a New Zealand Cup horse. He should be in the field. I'm not saying he can win it, but he definitely is good enough to be in the field. But and again, a little horse that might have just lost his way.
Yeah, he used to have that hitch in his gait early on in his career too, where he'd throw in the old rough step. Generally, early on in his career, that would have been curtains for him, but he actually stayed down pacing, and well, he got back down pacing. And I actually thought his run was very good, considering that wee blip halfway down the back straight, because they're flying at that point, and to make up ground after doing that and losing a bit of momentum was very good. Whether he'll make the Cup field will probably depend on whether there's horses come out, and there is some question marks over a few runners where they're at. We'll know more when we see the nominations for Friday night, which are due out any time in the next 10 minutes or so. I wonder whether he's still 12 months away. He's still a pretty young and experienced horse, but I think he's going to end up being a nice open class horse in time.
Yeah, he is. You can see he's a work in progress for Johnny, and the team probably are not having the greatest of runs at the minute. They're not going bad either, and you see a horse like him, if they can just iron him out, I reckon the rest of the team could go start to improve as well. You never know. I'm definitely not saying they're going bad, but they're just having one of those runs where they're running placings as compared to winning, which gets frustrating for trainers. I can say that. Rightio, the trot. What a race this was. The IRT, your horse, our passion, great supporters of harness racing in New Zealand, and this race sort of didn't play out the way I was expecting watching it live. We do have our pacing standing start horse out of my way, and I must say, Paul Nan, well done to him, because he trotted beautifully and he paced beautifully the day before. But I thought once Artie by the Hill found the top, it would nearly be all over for mine. I thought, anyway, the way that horse has been going and on this track. And yes, a little bit of a turn up for mine for the books.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a turn up. I was surprised, given the way that Artie by the Hill had been going, that Mystic Max was able to get him. But then again, Mystic Max has always looked like a very, very, very good open class horse in time. He's just got a bit of mental growing still to do, I think, and a bit of gate issues to sort out. But yeah, it was a surprising result because Johnny got to the lead easy enough and got around them. I mean, Blair obviously pops out and
smart drive here by
in front of
Blair.
him.
It was a smart one by Blair. He knew that it was going to happen, so he says, "Well, I'll just cut out one horse and make sure I get there first."
Yeah, and Johnny obviously got the opportunity there, being at a small field, to get around them. Had it been a big field, he might not have been able to get out and get around. But once he got to here, and you look at how much distance is between him and Oscar Bonavina at the back of the field, you kind of thought, well, he's going to win it, and it's going to be a race for second or third. But some good runs. Harold Smith, who we haven't really seen tested at this level, I thought he was excellent. Johnny Cox and Tommy Baggery. Time Up the Hill was very good again.
Yeah, so he's third last. Time Up the Hill, who runs third or fourth. Sorry, is second last, and that's Oscar Bonavina last for people watching it. And then your first and third, third's in front and first behind the leader. So they sort of come from everywhere in this race.
Yeah, they have. Ricky Mays rolled off here, and that's got Harold Smith out into the running line, and Time Up the Hills followed him forward. Oscar, I think they might have tried to learn a little bit out of Ashburton when they tried to work around that last bend, and he just didn't let down like he could. So I would imagine, and I don't know this whether it's fact or not, that Olivia was told to drive the horse for one run in his high speed, and you'll see in about 400 metres time that last bend that I talked about trips him up a little bit, and he goes into a bit of a gallop when looking to get into it. But even still at this point, Paul, you're looking and you're going, okay, well, this is Artie by the Hills race to lose, because he's had such a good time of it in front. I was probably a little bit surprised that both he and Mystic Max run past him, and Harold Smith run past him pretty easy first, and then Mystic Max had to wait for the gap. So maybe he might have needed that little blowout before Cup Week. I'm not sure, but we know he's a quality horse, so he'll improve off the back of that. So you can see Oscar at the back of the field there. Olivia's sort of thinking about going, and then they do start to move. I think Sarah comes out first and Johnny comes out, and then Oscar just looks to hook into it right on the tip of that bend, and he sort of half by stumbles there.
Yep.
But he comes back down, and his run afterwards was excellent, because that's hard to make ground like that.
Yes, definitely. Time Up the Hill was awesome as well underneath him. But it's got a barnstorming finish. It's going to win a big race from nowhere one day, because it just continually finds a line so strong. Harold Smith, as you say, was a bit unlucky, but Mystic Max did a great job for I'm going to get Michael Purdon. I nearly was going to call him Matthew there for a minute. I was going to be in all sorts of trouble. But Michael, this horse, Village Mystique, this horse that stands at what's her name? Harasta Trotter is one of my sponsors. I think there's only been 6 horses served in Down Under, and all 6 of them are high class horses, but they all are a little bit similar to Mystic Max. Take that bit of time. They just continually take time to get better and better.
Yeah, it described yesterday as being an oddly bred horse, just based on the fact that he's such a rarity to have horses running around by him. He's a
superstar, Village Mystique. Whoever said oddly, they might want to, because he is a jet over there in France. I know they wanted more semen, they just couldn't get it. They wouldn't give it to him.
Yeah, and the broodmare family Robinson, she comes from a good breed. It traces back through some pretty nice horses that have done a good job on the track. Actually trained, incidentally, for her last handful of starts by my father, family Robinson. So I don't know how we didn't end up getting a foal out of it, but that's all right.
Put your hand up.
We could have had Mystic Max. Yeah, should have laid a claim to that one. I actually forgot that. I just looked up the broodmare's record then and saw that she was trained by Dad for her last 3 or 4 starts. So, but how cool is this Purdon dynasty carrying on?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got Nathan and Mark winning with Kaikoura. We've seen Barry doing what Barry does over the last 2 to 3 weeks around Canterbury, and now Michael's in on the action winning a black type race as well. So it's very cool, and he will press on to both days at Addington during Cup Week. I think there's a 2,000 metre stand on Cup Day that they're looking at with him, and then he'll press on into the Dominion Handicap. Blair Orange has won the Dominion before. He's got a good chance based on that to maybe win one again, but you've got to add in Muscle Mountain and Bolt for Brilliance to that mix as well.
Yeah, and Artie by the Hill, and even Harold Smith would probably appreciate the Addington track a little bit more. I thought he was awesome because, like you said, 3 deep around there to make that sort of ground. We will actually highlight too one other Purdon achievement over the weekend that you may not be aware of over in Australia here. They've actually had a pretty big sort of run, so I think it is awesome. Just on the rest of the day, and I didn't get the video for it, I did actually watch it though. I was super impressed with Create Time, Blair Orange, Ken Barron. That first race yesterday, by Creatine at Deselect or Deselect, I'll go with anyway. Super impressive. Got a hitch in the gate. Never ever looked comfortable, but a very, very nice win for the first starter.
They were literally hanging out of trees to back this horse all weekend.
They would have had the heart in their mouth a couple of times.
I can't tell you how many people over the course of the weekend, and I was at a racing wedding on Saturday, and I reckon every single person that was there that was involved in racing wanted to tip me this horse. I felt for them going down the back straight when it's galloped. I thought, well, that's it. Blair's done what Blair does and patiently nursed it. And yeah, it's fun with a leg in the air. It has absolutely jogged it. It's going to go on and do a nice job. And Ken Barron was obviously on trackside before the race, and he was expecting a pretty big run. And Ken's not one to speak outlandishly about his horses. He's pretty reserved. And yeah, they're going to have some fun. I would say 12 months. Going to have a very, very nice horse, but they've got a very, very nice horse on their hands now.
Yeah, doing an awesome job, Career Team, because I think he had another winner. What's Wanted, another nice winner for the Tomlinsons, one as well. Any other highlights for you from the day? I think it was a pretty good day of racing, full stop. Anyway.
Yeah, it was. Look, I think one of the cool moments was the win in another of the trotting races, and it was a trotting mare that we've got over here who's been running around for about 7 seasons now. Her name's the Bloss.
Oh, yep.
Now, some inspired betting has come for her from early Monday morning right through until race start time. She's pretty much started favourite. They've backed her that heavily, and this is a race with 2 tangata, and that's what we do and the like. But beautiful front-running drive from Sarah O'Reilly. There's a lot of detractors over here for the rating system in New Zealand, but she's the perfect exponent of it. She's 145 starts, 16 wins, and about 35 placings. That win on yesterday tipped her up over $200,000 for her trainer, Brent Bulkowski. And Sarah O'Reilly's notched up this beautiful combination with her, and they are always on the speed, near the speed, and they run a lot of fourths and fifths, so you add to those placings. And I thought that was pretty cool because, you know, there was a lot of word around for her and the money was bang on. And you mentioned What's Wanted. He's a very, very nice horse, and great to see the Ford family winning at Kaikoura because they hail from that area. It's an area that's synonymous with trotting and their breed and the like. So thought that was a very cool performance too. And Celtic Spirit, a lovely drive from Benny Hope to get the job done on it, has come back in sensational form. I would love to see Celtic Spirit going to Menangle and racing each week because he's got blistering gate speed, loves to roll along. I think he would end up being a very, very good top line horse in Australia.
We've got to keep the horses in New Zealand, Matty. We're not allowed to send them over to Australia. But you know what I do?
Oh, he can come back. He can come back.
I think that's one of those things. We definitely need them still to go over because then people start tuning in and watching them. So it works 2 ways. How did you say Brent's surname?
Borkowski.
Borkowski is actually coming up onto a milestone. I wouldn't mind catching up with him when I get across here. He's had 97 winners, and that's what you say about that rating system. A gentleman like him that has a horse that can continually go up and down, maybe for the bigger stables that are trying to get horses, you know, win as many races as they can in as quick a time as they can. But Brent would be one of those people that'd be absolutely enjoying the rating system, and 3 wins and he'll be notched up his 100. So I'm sure that'll be, it won't be far off. The Bloss should be able to pick up a couple more, you would imagine, once it drops back and then gets back up into the right race, and away it goes.
Well, she's still a rating 61 over here, despite having won 16 races in her career. You know, that alone to win 16 races is quite an achievement. You know, we don't see that a lot over here with, you know, horses. You get the ones that'll get to 10, and that's quite an achievement. But you're right, she's still got another couple of wins in her because she's got exceptional stand-start manners, puts herself in the race, follows speed well, and, you know, she's always going to be probably lead trail 3 fence turnover home, and she gets her chance.
Yep, no, absolutely. Those noms aren't up yet. We've still got a couple of other things. What about for the rest of the week? Before I go to Australia, what about for the rest of the week? In New Zealand, obviously, Methven was... we lost Methven. I just shut my page down by mistake too, so I'm in all sorts of trouble here until I get there. We had actually Kaikoura the day before. Tommy Bagri had a good winner. It was a good drive by, I think it was Johnny Dunn that drove that. 3 back the fence, 4 back the fence, and got up the inside. Kiwi, I'll go with, but you might pronounce
Kawai.
I wasn't far off for me. That wasn't too
Not
bad.
far off. It's a good effort. Yeah, it was a good effort. Very good from it because it come from a long way off the speed. It's always been a nice trotter, that horse, and a beautiful John Dunn drive. He is one of the best drivers of trotters for me in Australasia, John. He very patient with them, and they run for him. The racing action actually was very cool there on Sunday because it's what they call a fast team meeting, even though there was only 8 races. So they banged them all through 20-minute gaps. It was wall-to-wall racing and some great racing throughout the day. We saw Tornado Banner win for Sarah in the junior drivers race. Gavin Smith got a winner, or actually Gavin got a winner with Better Than Diva, which was good to see. She's been a nice, consistent mare. And Robbie Holmes, he was having a bit of a day out, but probably the stable that fired the most over the first day was the Michael House stable. They only won one, I think, and that was Boys Invasion in the first, but they had a lot of placings at big odds with horses. Boys Invasion, he's been another great trotter over here in New Zealand, originally trained by Michael Heenan, who stands a stallion called Superfast Stuart. Just down the road from me here in Methven. I've sent this horse back to Mickey. I think he's now won 11 races and done a fantastic job too, and good effort because he was first up for a while too. So that was good to see. It was a good 2 days of racing at Kaikoura.
Winton, they had a pretty good day on Thursday. I think our man Craig Ferguson trained another 2 winners, didn't drive them though this time. Mark Errol drove them both. Kirsten Green, there was a couple of nice winners down there from memory too.
Yeah, Rustenburg, one of Craig's, he's shaping up to be a really, really nice horse. He runs time, he does it nicely, he covers the ground really well. There's some really nice horses coming through down in the deep south. Louis Girl was that other winner of Craig's. Side by a horse called Lord Forbes. Now, you won't remember him, Paul, but he actually started in a New Zealand Trotting Cup for a guy from the deep south called Gavin Forbes. What made Lord Forbes famous was that Lord Forbes used to make his way into the pub after the races and get up to the bar. He's a stallion, but he was quiet as anything, and they'd walk him in the front door of the pub, and he'd perch up at you wouldn't perch up, but he'd stand at the bar. And it become a bit of a cult following for him. So he's side, I don't know how many mares he's covered. It'll be under 10. And he's left a pretty good one by the looks of it in Louis Girl because she was very, very good winning on the weekend. So, yeah, wee bit of a fun fact for you about the sire of that one.
Absolutely. I'm going to cross over the border, but from a New Zealand point of view, with the Breeders' Crown run in America the other day, Dexter, didn't he have half a day out on the first night? Anyway, 6 winners. I don't think he got one on the second night, but he didn't expect to get any, and he ended up with 6. So he's had a fair day out on the Friday night, of the Breeders' Crown meeting.
Just Dexter doing Dexter things. Nothing surprises me with that guy. From the moment that he started driving in, I was commentating when he had his first workout drive at Methven when he was about, it feels like he was about 10, but obviously he wasn't because he wasn't allowed to drive, but he was decked out in all the latest gear. He had Ian Dobson was his sponsor, and he had a lime green cap, and he wore Dobby's colours, and then we've gone on and watched him do what he does, and he is an exceptional talent, and it's so good to see him having success because he gave up a lot to move over to the other side of the world, and I know he misses his daughter a lot, but you're right, he wasn't expecting to have a very good time of it, but and I think I used it once in a story, and a matter which only Dexter Dunn could, Dexter Dunn did. That's about the best way to describe it.
Yeah, well, as I said, he didn't expect, I saw an interview, he didn't expect to get a winner, and he got 6, but he mozzed himself for the next night because he said, well, I got 6 tonight, I didn't expect any. He said, I don't expect any tomorrow night. So he said, it's going to be a good night. And he didn't get one. I do videos. This is, we can get sidetracked, but that's okay. With, for Harassa Trotters, some promotional stuff. And I can't think of the name of the horse, but Dexter, Costa TV, they do great coverage, and I pinch a lot of their stuff, and it's all okay, I'm allowed to. But the boys were sitting at a panel, and Dexter's walked out, and he's got a dart in his hand, and there's like a park bench, and he's sort of just sitting there. And as you said, as Dexter does, I reckon all of a sudden he realised, I'm on camera here. And so he starts sort of half sitting up and having a bit of fun with it. And then he decides, well, I'm going to walk in front of the guys, and it would be a 50-metre walk. So he sort of swaggered up, and he's got the shoulders back and having a bit of fun. And he stands in front of them, and you could tell the boys are trying not to smile. I don't know what he was doing to them in front of them. They're trying not to smile at him. Next minute, poor old Yannick Gringas goes past, and he's cuddling him and bashing him and things like that. He has a great outlook on life, if you like. And I think we've got to promote those sides of things as much as, you know, the way they win the races. But you can see he just has fun at those big meetings as well. It probably makes him why he is Dexter.
Well, yeah. If he was any more laid back, he'd be walking backwards, I think. But had a really good catch up with him over the summer circuit here because he was obviously home for a few weeks, and we actually perched up at a little meeting called Roxburgh, which is held in January, and it's a what would you call it, a saucer plate type race course, and hills on either side of it. And Dex was down there having a bit of a holiday and a relax, and yeah, it was good because he was in that really nice relaxed mood. You know, he wasn't missing driving, although once the racing sort of started, he said, "Oh, maybe I could be out there having a go again." But yeah, he's been like that all his life. He's never been a guy that's got worked up over things, and I think that correlates to when he sits in the sulky and a horse feels that through the reins.
Yep.
It's just that relaxed feeling, and you see it with those good drivers. You know, you look at the likes of the Greg Sugars and over here the Blairs and the Sarah O'Reillys. They are very, very patient and very relaxed, and it certainly correlates to how the horses race that they drive.
No, absolutely. It's great to watch. I enjoy watching it, and I encourage people to go back and watch the replays, especially of that carnival, because it was a lot of fun going on there. Right, here in Australia, this is over the ditch, but here in Australia, had a couple of big achievements from the Kiwis on Sunday at Redwood Day. It's a time-honoured event, and it's come to a better stage, better timing, if you like, for us over here, because the weather's better than what it was at the end of August. But unfortunately now it clashes with the New Zealand Cup and makes it a bit harder for people to be able to get their better horses, if you like, going backwards and forwards. But this little filly for a start, High Step, the Father Patrick daughter out of Highgate, who herself won a Redwood and was a super mare for the Brecon Farms, and now becoming a great brood mare. This was one very, very emphatic win of a high-class event on both sides of the ditch.
Yeah, it was, and it just shows that there is still a market to campaign horses over there. She's obviously been there for quite a while, and racing and doing a very good job, and she's going to end up being a very, very good horse. I've got no doubt about that, because that entire family from Highgate, and even going back through the family, I think Highgate's had a Regal Volo, who was a very good race mare and a very good producer, but she's left High on Love, High Energy, who's 8 from 11 over here, High Step, obviously that, and then obviously High on Love, who's a Love You, born in 2018, has done a good job as well. So I just note that she's missed last year and getting bred, Highgate. So there is a Father Patrick colt called Higher Power, which I'm sure we'll see at some point, and no doubt he'll probably go on and win races as well, because that's generally just what that family does.
No, absolutely, and I love what Brecon Farms are doing. I think they openly now say they're 50% trotting brood mares to pacing brood mares. They're embracing the gate and really doing a good job. Nordic Rain is a very, very nice horse. It was a nice field that it beat. There was probably a couple missing from it, but it was definitely a very, very nice field. The other good win on the day was She's Bella for Rogie and Dylan Ferguson. She's running second here on the back of She's a Wish. She's a Wish is a very, very nice filly. She's run second in a couple of the Oaks up here. Not the Victorian Oaks, but a couple of the other ones for the Pangrazios. A really high-class filly, very, very fast. This was as fast as I've seen She's Bella go up the straight. She was awesome, I reckon, in winning this race. And a good race, the Aldebaran Park Gold Bracelet.
Yeah, let down nicely, didn't she? And she had to fight the whole length of the straight to get past She's a Wish, who certainly wasn't lying down. Probably not the race that, Dylan and Rogie wanted to get for the day, but at least they got something for the trip over there, and it was Dylan's birthday as well, I believe. So a nice wee kick for him after getting engaged a couple of weeks ago to his partner Joe. So it sets up again, and I've talked about it. We'll see Stonewall sort of branch out into the Australian scene at some point in the next 18 months, I believe. Rogie and Dylan have now had this wee taste test in there, and they've got some really, really nice horses in their care. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing them trek over to some of these carnivals going forward. And they've got a couple of trotters here, and obviously She's Bella and Love Me Too, who can be more than competitive in all those big age group races over there and back over here in New Zealand as well.
I think the whole trip was good for Dylan as well. He openly said to me after Love Me Too's first start that he might have been a bit soft on him. And understanding the Australian racing, was able to then fine-tune him for the heat of the Derby, which he was just monstrous when he won that. Then potentially that may have took a little bit of the toll out of him. I mean, the times were similar to his heat run, so there was definitely something not quite right. But it was interesting talking to Dylan because he said she's Bella. They took her to Christchurch last year. She didn't travel. She didn't go as good as what they had hoped. They had a fair opinion of her. He said a little bit of it was she didn't travel as good. He said, rock up to Shepparton off the plane. He said she just says, oh yeah, another place couldn't care. He said, loved me too. Didn't know where. He basically said in the interview, didn't know where to stand, didn't know what to do, didn't know if he was allowed to do. He was a little bit lost. He reckons he'll be so much better for the run. He's going to Christchurch. They're both going to Christchurch. As long as there's nothing wrong with him, they'll be in Christchurch start of December. And, hopefully we'll get to see the best of him there. But there will be more travels with him coming back to Australia, which is really exciting. As I keep saying, we've got to make harness racing smaller. We've got to include New Zealand, not isolate it. We've got to be able to get both countries really going gangbusters. So, yeah, I think that's super exciting for us. And as you say, it's good to see these guys prepared to travel.
It is, and hopefully we do see more of it. I think you're 100% right. There's got to be some connectivity there between both, Harness Racing Australia and Harness Racing New Zealand, and getting those calendars interlinked so that it is an option for everyone to go to everything if they want to. And we're not, biting off our nose to spite our face, because we need the Australian interests a lot over here. And, I think Swayze coming over to the New Zealand Cup is going to be massive. We saw it last year when they obviously campaigned Majestic Cruiser and co over here, and we had the trotter of Lils, Aldebaran.
Zeus.
Names Zeus escapes me. Sorry about that. And the interest that adds to carnivals. You're getting guys like Chris Alford and Greg Sugars and all those ones over here driving. It just adds another dimension to your meetings. And I'm sure it's the same too when the likes of Mark Purden or those guys go over and drive over in Australia as well. So, got to get that cohesiveness going between the two countries and get that racing to an absolute maximum where everyone's getting the equal opportunity to race in as much as they can.
It also throws in that little bit of unpredictability, which can be good as well. Spirit of St. Louis still coming across? He hasn't pulled out yet?
I haven't heard. There was a vet check done after the other day. I haven't heard the update. I believe the rankings the next round of rankings will be out later on today after obviously Kaikoura. I haven't heard whether he's still coming or not coming, so I guess we'll just have to sit on our hands and wait for that. But hopefully he does, because that adds another aspect to it as well. And I think we're going to need it because we need a little bit of depth to this New Zealand Cup this year.
No, absolutely. Noms still aren't out. We've been waiting for the noms to come in, unless you've got them. They're not refreshing for me either. So
I'm hitting refresh incessantly, and it's not happening. But interesting card, the one on Friday night. Obviously, the last meeting at Addington before Cup Week. There is a Group 3 race, the SENZ New Zealand Trotting 2-year-old Trotting Stakes, which will be a good race, $40,000. We've talked a lot in the last 2 weeks about the depth of trotters in New Zealand in the age group levels, but you've also got that rating 80 to 120 special handicap pace, which is going to be Cup Trial next Wednesday aside, the last chance. And I believe we will see Republican Party will be there this week on what I've read and heard. BD Joe likely to be there as well. Then we'll have the likes of American Me and co that will likely be there too, because they're going to need that last chance opportunity to push their way into that 15 for the final Cup field, which we'll know by early of next week.
Yeah, and then it'll make the trial day very interesting, because a lot of people use that trial day for horses to get familiarised. But if they're having a hard hit out on the Friday night before, they probably don't need to be there for the trial day. So it'll be an interesting day, trial day.
I don't think we will see a Cup trial like we would normally see. Mark Purden saying yesterday, Akuta will just tick over at home now.
Yep.
Well,
last year, last year they didn't actually go to the trials. Remember, they worked them prior.
Yeah. Worked them privately. So maybe we might see Old Town Road there for a quiet run. Maybe a horse like Krug. Yep. Most of them are at that fitness level now where they just need to be kept, ticking over and not actually having a good hard run under their belt. So not sure what that means. And it's one of those rare years where there's that gap. So it kind of negates the Cup trial. But be interesting to see who goes around there. But it's always, if you're punting on Cup day, You want to get onto HRNZ and you want to watch those trials, because you'll see all the 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
Those lower grade races are going to be the winners are going to be found in that. Millwood Nike actually goes around at the trials at Ashburton today, alongside Don't Stop Dreaming. So she's obviously over that little kip she had leading into Ashburton last week, and those nominations are still not there, Paul.
Is that the North Canterbury trials? Because they're going around tomorrow.
Ashburton trials today, Mid Canterbury trials
tomorrow
at Ashburton.
Right.
No, they can't. No, they'll be today, because they can't be. Mid Canterbury trials today because of Methven tomorrow. So they had a bit of a switch around.
Oh, okay.
So Rangiora trials are Thursday, and Ashburton trials are today.
Today, keep it honest. Right, mate. We'll call it day. We can't highlight them. I was going to say that trial for the Cup Day, it was Rock and Roll Dude, I think Republican Party, and Old Town Road. So you would think Johnny might follow that same path again this year. Just give him that little refreshener and don't go from there. Matty, thank you. Just knocked the microphone flying. Thank you, as always. Always good to chat. We will be back next. We'll pre-record this Tuesday, but then the following week we'll be live. Be a Monday night somewhere. We'll perch up somewhere and have a bit of a preview of the whole meeting going forward to the Cup week. So there'll be plenty more coming out, mate. As always, really appreciate your time, but also your insight. I love the way you look at races and understand horses and what goes on. So really do appreciate it, mate. This is Over the Ditch. Hopefully, not hopefully, we will be back next week. So I appreciate it.
Sounds good. We'll talk then. Thanks, Paul.